Here we go, it's all about you, it's all about me, it's all about what we do. Making art, you and me, trying to find something to believe. Because I'm running wild, I'm running free. Still got a lot of shit left to see.
Hello, hello, if you're back to the channel. If you're new here, hey, it's your girl Britannia, and we're here to talk about film and TV, because that's what I talk about here on my channel. We've been switching it up with some new stuff lately, and if you've seen my last video, that means you've seen that I've added a bit of policy into the mix. I am a law graduate, I can say now, and so I'm hoping to incorporate that more into the channel in new videos. But today we're here to talk about Sister Sage. So today we're going to be breaking down all of Sister Sage's powers and what that means and what that could mean for the future plot of The Boys, or I guess the Boys spinoff, Gen Z, and I guess we'll see how she could maybe be relevant to the heroes of Godolkin. So, just a refresher of who Sister Sage is and her background. Sister Sage is a new character that's been introduced on season 5 of The Boys, which is this latest season. We see on the screen when Ashley brings up her profile, and then later when Homelander is looking at it from the comfort of his, well, they're not white, so I can't call them tidy-whities, of his briefs. We see that on the screen says that she has advanced engineering listed down as a first skill, moderate regeneration, which we do get to see later on in the series. We see that she lobotomizes herself by taking a long needle or ice pick or something and essentially stabbing herself in the middle of her cornea in order to give her a quick little lobotomy, so she essentially feels drunk and so she can wind down and relax, kind of like, you know, alcohol for people with ADHD or anxiety or autism. The more you know. The next thing we see listed is photographic memory. Now, of course, we would all Jessica, Sister Sage's moderate regeneration means that whenever her brain, and I guess somewhat her head generally is impacted by injury, she is able to regenerate, so heal herself back to essentially her original state. So she doesn't sustain physical damage from injuries, from physical injury. Or I guess from any physical injuries. So we see that she's able to stab herself and even endure being shot in the head by a bullet because her brain is able to regenerate. And of course that would mean somewhat her skull is, and any skin or other organs that would be impacted, like her eyes. She's also said that most of her regenerative abilities essentially do only lie or are limited within the head region, and she otherwise, if she is injured or sustains serious or significant physical injury to any other parts of her body, then it is likely that those could be fatal. So if she gets shot in the heart instead, for example, she can die. In real life, I think a photographic memory actually doesn't last as long, and obviously would be retained to literally the things that the person was able to see and, for example, read if it's written information. Like oftentimes in movies and TVs, it seems like even just a glimpse, that person is able to process that information and retain it essentially for years, and decades even down the road, when that's not the case. We've seen it in TV shows like Suits. The main guy in Suits was supposedly so great at the bar test because he was able to memorize all of the laws. Law students are tested through memory tests. We're also asked to do critical thinking and apply ourselves critically. So just having a photographic memory wouldn't help you ace all your relevant qualified law exams. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent. We're going somewhere else. moving on. And the last power listed on her card, on her profile from Vought, is empathetic accuracy. According to Wiki Fandom, when we see Sister Sage deduce things like Homelander's prostate being enlarged from signs like him washing his hands, that is a bit of empathetic accuracy. So due to her immense understanding of psychology, this is the direct quote from Wiki, she was instantly able to deduce that Homelander was concerned about his aging body and he required her help. And then she would later use this ability to figure out psychological stresses that Mother's Milk was under and induce him into a panic attack based off of that. So she's able to, because of her photographic memory and her advanced intelligence, which allows her to just quickly process complex thinking, she is able to understand and automatically know loads of psychological concepts and I guess tips and techniques that would allow you to deduce someone's mental states, or at least current mental state. That with, of course, otherwise information that she has access to, and her just being a smart person, able to draw her own conclusions from her own opinion and experiences. Photographic memory is essentially the ability to look at anything and retain the information that you have gotten from looking at an image or something, and your ability to just automatically recall any of those things just from looking at it. So you know how like an average person, in order for us to be able to recall information that we've retained before, we usually have to process that information multiple times. So essentially, someone with photographic memory only has to process that information once through their visual sensory gland, which is their eyes, and then they're able to instantly recall whatever that information that they have been able to process through their eyes is at any point in time in their lifetime, quickly and conveniently, right? And all of us other regular mother effers have to do things like use onomatopoeias and like oral memory devices and flashcards and reading things 20 times backwards, forwards, sideways in order to recall maybe even just a sentence for word. There are many examples in film and TV of people who have photographic memory, and how like film and TV has conceptualized this to look like and to behave. So just because the way it's been usually done or portrayed in film and TV doesn't necessarily mean that that is how it is in real life. Sister Sage is one of the newest characters to be introduced in season 5 of The Boys, and she is characterized or introduced to us as the world's most intelligent sentient being, or the world's smartest person. She's the world's smartest person, even though we hear people say woman often, and she corrects them, person, as she should, queen. So, Sister Sage is Earth's most intelligent person, and we see Homelander seek her out in an attempt to seek advice on, I guess, his mental state and what he should want for his future, or how to get what he truly wants in the future, or for his future, which he says is to give the world to Ryan. But we all know that none of this is about Ryan. It's always about Homelander. Homelander is just kind of like the personification of narcissism in a literary sense, as or a plot device or a characterization when it comes to the storytelling of The Boys. You know, Homelander is supposed to be this kind of outrageous and ridiculous example of a very perturbed and perverted version of, we see these big and standout heroes in like the superhero genre. He's supposed to epitomize characters like Captain America and Superman. He's an amalgamation of like those two characters, and, as I said, a perversion of that characterization of that like patriotic, strong white man who is charming to his audience and kind of seen as kind of like the icon of the perfect hero. And so, enough about him. We're talking about Sister Sage. He seeks her out for advice, and that is our first introduction to that character. That exchange that they have where Homelander essentially tells her to dance or die, perform, or I'll waste you here, and she does. And at the end of their exchange, she agrees to work alongside him in order to become basically his project manager, his analyst, his master of strategy, the mind behind the plan, in order to ensure that Homelander gets what he wants most. Deplace humans, at least in America, as supreme rulers or as the people who are the majority in terms of the control of power. He feels as if superheroes should become the new majority, the standard. And so he enlists Sage's help, and he promises her a chance to finally control the reins of something big and impact global change when it comes to anything really she kind of wants to do, or the things she's thought of. Other than that, we learn from an exchange with Victoria Newman that Sister Sage, like most superheroes, or at least most people in the storyline of The Boys, has experienced some trauma. Shortly after her birth, her parents accepted Vough's offer to inject her with Compound V, which is how most superheroes of her generation have been born, and subsequently transforming her into a soup and giving her superhuman intelligence. And the last of Sage's powers are hypercognition. So, do you guys remember when like that Sherlock Holmes movie came out? I think that's basically it. It's the power to automatically perform very complex mental operations, so like complex calculations, and it would be to the point which is drastically beyond any average person. Obviously, that's what makes her super. Other examples of characters with this power of hypercognition would be like all of the Galvins from Ben 10, if you've seen Ben 10. The Irregular at High School, something, that anime that came out on Netflix not too long ago, which was not good. Sage from the Marvel comics, who, funny enough, could be an inspiration or to Sage from the Marvel comics, funny enough, which could also be an inspiration or like a source of inspiration for Sister Sage, considering that they have very similar powers, except for Sage being able to use telepathy because she was taught by Charles Xavier. And a lot of the boys' characters are direct spoofs of Marvel characters, or if not, they're like amalgamations of spoofs of Marvel and DC characters. Other than Sister Sage and Sage's power similarity, they also have the similarity of trying to abuse substance as a way to kind of drown out all of the complex thoughts and thinking that they tend to do on a day out, day in basis because of their superpower. But this is also not a very uncommon thing to be depicted when it comes to the portrayal of characters who are often, too smart for their own good. Nihilism is often a trait that is associated in film and TV with too smart characters.
Why don't people mention the nihilists on their dating profiles? I went on a date with a bloke, and 20 minutes in, he said he was a nihilist, and that because human existence is futile, there was no point continuing with the date.
It's because they're too smart. They, usually easily catch on to the wider workings of the world that maybe average people don't pay attention to in their everyday reality, and therefore they can often get bogged down by being so hyper aware of every complexity or difficulty or a significant negative thing that the world is going through that they feel that everybody else is closing their eyes to. So nihilism is often associated with these characters. We've seen it in other characters with super intelligence, like Rick from Rick and Morty. Or one of my favorite classic nihilistic super smart guys is House from House. I used to love watching that show all the time. You also have Sherlock, for example. Many examples of these characters. So yeah, often the downfall of these characters is they tend to pull away from society because they can't stand to be the smartest person in the room, because at a certain point that is not fun. It's always fun to the narcissist who thinks they're the smartest person in the room, but it's usually not ever fun to the person who is actually the smartest person in the room. Sister Sage presents as if she'll be a very, very interesting character and a very important character in the long run of The Boys, wherever that's going to be. I hope that they don't milk this TV show out for far too long. I hope like there's actually like a planned ending to everything, especially with them having now Gen V be so successful. I am worried that they will drag this out. I'm hoping it's not going to be like a Game of Thrones things where we nearly had like a really perfect show, all for it to be thrown away for like a little bit more money. But yeah, it's interesting to see where this character goes, because we start everything off with obviously her being recruited by Homelander, and we see her manipulate some people like Firecracker. So we obviously see that like Firecracker, she manipulates Black Noir. She also does it to the Deep, you know. She also does it to Ashley. We see that she's not above mental mind games. She's not above lying and being deceitful. So it's hard to know what she really is truly honest about. As we said, she's a very perceptive person as the world's most intelligent person, and she uses her emotional accuracy in order to kind of read people. When I first was watching the character, I often thought that maybe she was reading people's mind, and that was a secret power that we would be shown later down the road. But that turned out not to be the case, at least as far as I can see this season. I have read on Wiki that like one of kind of like the subsets of powers that is known under hypercognition is ability to kind of predict things accurately. And I would assume that would mean if she can predict people, she can predict what people are gonna do, and she can kind of read people accurately to see what kind of state they are in currently, or deduce what they're up to, and then she can use resources to spy as well and find out background information on different people. She can essentially probably calculate some future events, a hopefully pretty accurate degree, minus any unpredictabilities or risks that obviously can't be calculated, accounted for, or thought about, even by her. But it would mean that she is, in a way, able to kind of see the future. Not really, but she's able to kind of like predict what is the most likely set of events to happen based off of the things that she pursues. Even with that knowledge, I would still think some of her actions would still seem unsmart, even from a person who has the ability to pick up on the sweat of her brow. Because when she first meets Homelander, the man threatens to kill her at least 5 times. So any person who's really truly that smart, who really truly can read Homelander, who knows what kind of person he is, read into him, see him truly, would know not to trust Homelander. And then a lot of the things that we see her say to Homelander or do wouldn't make any sense in the context of her being as smart as we know her to be. So it has to be that she is playing some game, and she's obviously faking it till she makes it. At least that's my opinion, and that's my game theory. Oh, I'm sorry. Film theory. We also, one of the things that makes me think that she's just waiting to secretly betray Homelander is the fact that in episode 1 she talks about her game plan and she brings up Grease, and in reply the narcissist that Homelander is brings up Caesar, and he says, oh, so I get to be Caesar. And again, he's just so blinded by trying to be this person who's known for glory and who's adored by the world that he doesn't even come to consider to think that Caesar dies at the end of that play. He's killed by, a close companion. And as far as we know, Homelander doesn't really have anyone who considers close or on his level until he says he considers Sage on his level and he recruits her. So I see Sage being the Brutus to his Caesar and stabbing him in the back and probably stringing the Deep and many other people along with her to do that.
Here we go, it's all about you, it's all about me, it's all about what we do. Making art, you and me, trying to find something to believe. Because I'm running wild, I'm running free. Still got a lot of shit left to see.